back, everybody, to the energy tips for week 21. That is May 19th till 25th of May. And yes, we have a bifurcated week. What does this mean? This is when the arrow of the energy barometer is pointing into two directions at the same time. And most of you already know what this means. This means that the way we perceive, the way we experience what is happening in our life can be severely different. And for most of us here, the perception really is that maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 will perceive it like we do, unless we already live in a community that is composed of energetically sensitives like we are, where we can exchange those things and get confirmation. This is the reason why I do the energy update that you just watched and the energy tips here, to give you an overview over what other people are feeling and what they're about to feel. So you know this about me, I'm a professional energy healer, energy trainer, and my job here is to be the canary for you guys for the coming week, which means I'm reading out the field of the energies that are coming in. Bifurcated weeks are always weeks where you can expect that there's quite a little bit of controversy going on. And the controversy of this next week, guys, it has a lot to do with conditioning, brainwashing, mind control. All right, so what we will be experiencing here worldwide is that the status quo that we have established in our minds, or that was established in our minds, is being questioned, and that for good reason, because we already know that there's a massive paradigm shift going on, and that these next 2-3 years are going to be a big time of transition. But many of us don't really know what this means, or we can't really see how this is affecting our personal life, simply because we are in this wheel that we are trying to maintain, and perhaps there is exactly the problem. We are trying to maintain what we have. We are trying to keep up, to hold up a certain status quo, and many of you are not even realizing how that which you are trying to hold on to, that you're trying to keep up with, that the wheel that you're trying to power here, that this isn't actually so good for you, or as good as you thought. Is it really allowing you to unfold? Is it really allowing you to be self-loving? Does it allow you to express your creativity? Does it allow you to express your world views and bring this into the world? Many of us are not even realizing how this wheel, these compromises that we have made, how they're actually compromising our energy, and therefore self-mastery, the overall goal really of energy work and consciousness work, is what is being challenged right now. And we'll begin to see, and this will come in weird surges of, sort of sudden awakenings, sudden illuminations, sudden insights, where we realize how we have been brainwashed, how we have been manipulated, how we have been gaslighted, either by the overall environment or the tribe that we are in, or through our partner, or through our co-workers, friends, or bosses. And some of you who have done a little bit of karmic family work here in these last months have, or are in the process of, finding out how you have been conditioned to this, how you've been primed to allow others to substitute your sense of real, your sense of self. And I want to spend a little extra time here at the end of these energy tips with investigating what these gaslighting techniques are and what they do to us. I've covered this in length in the Empath Narcissist Trauma series here in the Sacred Self-Healing community. So there we do in-depth work. Together we exchange our experiences, and we really come to conclusions that help us to understand that we are not alone. Gaslighting, crazy making, those are all very popular terms right now, and What they are really demonstrating to us is that there is this questioning of what is real and what isn't. And in context with all of this, things that are happening in our world, they seem so uncertain and so unpredictable. And next week will be one of those weeks where there will be sudden blow-ups, sudden, sort of like, this is it, this is it, I've had it, I've always known it, or, I'm not doing this any longer, or other people really exposing themselves, okay, like the gossiping or the bad-mouthing, or they're exposing their own envy, or their true intentions. Okay, this will feel like something uncomfortable confrontation, but at the same time, and this is the cool thing about this overall elevation of energy, it will give you new hope, because for the first time you'll actually feel that you are beginning to be in control of your own energies. You may not know yet how to get there. Okay, so this is the hard strategy that I talked about last week, is that you have to find new ways. You have to really find a new strategy, that is based on different paradigms in order to get there. All right, and I'm going to try to help you a little bit through this. So my main concern here is to help you at least to detect the things that are still toxic in your life, that are still manipulating you, that are still holding you back. Now, also in the energy update, I mentioned manifestation power, the mechanics of manifestation, and that's something, guys, I can't really discuss here in the energy tips. This is something that we discuss in the Sacred Self-Healing environment, where we have, workshops and webinars all the time, at least 2-3 times a month. And of course, this is why people come to energy sessions. This is why we train all this, all right? Because most of this has to be experienced through your own 7 senses, if you will. You have to be able to internalize this, to be able to claim this for yourself, all right, so that you can really develop the sense of self-mastery. As for next week, really all you need to know is that what is going to go down here in this next week is really foreshadowing, is really giving you sort of a forecast of what's going to go on until the end of 2020. Okay, so pay attention, be in the now, because if you are not, then it's very easy for others to hijack your sense of reality. And of course, as always, this has a lot to do with your inner connection with your true self, and when it comes to manifestation, also the way you can connect with your future self. And some of you may have seen this already. We have a new marathon at the end of May, not this coming week, but the week after that, a future self marathon. If you ever wanted to learn how to tune into your own future self, then come to this marathon. It's phenomenal. Overall, the larger context is really moving your whole perception and your energy from this victim place, from this place where life is just happening to you, and where you just try to survive. So from moving from a survivor place into a more thriver, and ideally into the inspirer phase of your life, of your journey. Okay, so let's look at how this plays out here on these different levels. I'll zoom through this on the physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual level, so that we can get to the energetics and especially the gaslighting tactics. All right, so first and foremost, guys, probably the main thing that you have been feeling here in these last days, I want to say, is this the sense of erraticness inside of yourself. And this isn't so much anybody's fault. This isn't the collective fault either. This is just in the nature of intensity. So whenever energies shift on the outside, whenever these waves come in, and these waves They won't stop, guys. I've been saying this for years. These waves of intensity where your vibratory rate really wants to increase, okay, which makes you sometimes feel like you're standing in a pot of molasses because nothing is really moving, but your internals are prompting you to move faster, all right? So that's the symptom, that you feel when you feel this like sudden motivation and really strong inspiration and creativity, and then all of a sudden all you can see is all the stuff that is holding you back. So that's not just you guys, okay? This is going on in the collective right now, and there's still a lot of manipulation. We're going to see some of that uncovered in the financial markets here this next week, okay? So the crypto fans, you know that we have been manipulated all year last year, and this recent surge, okay, where I warned you guys to get into this FOMOing, all right, is now going to show who's really pulling the strings here. And that's why I said last week, don't fall into the fear of loss, okay, because that's gonna seduce you into giving up your power, giving up your manifestation power, okay. On the political arena, there will be these collective traumas that I've been talking about since the beginning of the year. In regards to wars between countries, in regards to the war of the churches. We'll see this week very clearly, and we'll also begin to see who is really in control. There'll be stuff with espionage, there'll be stuff with, secret enemies, for all this erraticness to continue. And you'll see in the gaslighting special why this is such an important condition for gaslighting to work. Okay, there has to be an enemy, there has to be something that is manipulating you. And so part of this gaslighting really is to let you, or to make you believe that it's others who are manipulating you, and those who are coming forward and say, oh, don't, you've got to be suspicious, you got to, check on their intentions, okay, because they may be seducing you and your ego into trying to maintain what you have, and that's never without self gain, okay. So we need to learn how to harmonize all that, how to harmonize our priorities, our need to for safety, for security, for safe borders, for in our personal lives, to feel secure with our partner, to be able to trust and to be open for this vulnerability that helps us to grow. But then at the same time also how to work this out together, okay. So don't get sidetracked by this erraticness within and around yourself. That's all just part of the collective phenomenon right now, okay. The energy centers triggered here this next week will be your second chakra. That's your emotional processing, your emotional regulation. Your third and your fifth, this is something that is now the culmination of these past weeks, okay, where we had to learn what it's like when your ego gets hit and when your solar plexus starts responding and you go into this performance mode where all you can think of is I got it, and well, why didn't I, and I should have, and I need to, and I have to, and running around like a chicken with a head cut off, and doubting that you can make it, in total exhaustion, hindering you really to go into this deeper place of self-expression and self-actualization. Okay, so see this as a distraction. And then towards the end of next week, you're going to see something coming in that will now start to lead you to deeper reflection. It's your fourth and your fifth in conjunction with another. They really, really want to synchronize and harmonize. And so your fourth and your fifth, when they come together, it's not so much the visionary aspect. That's when the fourth and the sixth comes together. When the fourth and fifth comes together, it's more like the practical application of it. The strategy, how to express yourself, how you present yourself, how you bring yourself out into this world. On a physical level, guys, it's really important that you continue to make self-care your priority. This is the foundation for your sense of self, for your centered and grounded feeling with yourself. Don't overwork, don't stress so much. Next week is not a good week to stress a lot. Eat properly, make sure that you get enough sleep. Insomnia is a very, very common phenomenon right now. Okay, so whatever works, counting sheep, reading a book, learning how to meditate, saying prayers, working with alignments and invocations can all help you to fall asleep. But some of you may also discover that maybe some of the substances, the foods or the caffeine or the medications that you take really make it impossible for you to go into this natural, more organic sort of feeling when you actually need sleep. And the same counts for food. So second chakra always affects our relationship with foods and our relationship with the sensual stuff in our life, the things that make us feel nourished. Okay, so you need to make this a priority next week. This is all about finding new ways of living and not just temporarily. Okay, so those of you who do the 10-day challenge with us, these things that we talk about there and that we motivate you to reflect on, they're not just for right now. They're like for you to form new ways, new strategies that tune you more into self-love, self-care, and self-reflection. Okay. Now, emotionally, guys, it can be a very frustrating week, and you'll feel maybe a little heavy. A lot of that is again, second chakra here coming in through the fear of being betrayed, suspicions of being betrayed, performance issues that link back to your trauma, where you think it's your problem or you're not good enough. This is all being triggered. All your triggers are being pulled, and that's why this brainwashing, mind control, gaslighting will completely 100% play out if you are not able to see through this. Okay, so when there is a lot of gossip and a lot of envy and stuff going on around you, and there's a lot of lime green people around you, you'll feel this. And you'll have to learn how to discern this, how to know that this isn't coming from you. This feeling of being totally small and not feeling good enough is being projected onto you. Okay? And sometimes people also do this by just venting or dumping their stuff, and you think you're doing them a favor, by sympathizing with them. So really be careful here. Empathy and sympathy are not the same thing. Okay, it really triggers your dependencies. Next week, know what you need, what you want, what your values are, what truly matters to you. Okay, and also learn more how to express your true feelings and how to name them. When you start naming your emotions, even if you have to make up words, okay, it increases the differentiation in you. And often it isn't until you actually become aware of a certain emotion or somebody calls it in some way that you can actually start literally feeling it inside of you. So working on your emotional literacy really helps with discernment of truth, and therefore also with your manifestation power. Now, mentally, obviously, manipulation tactics are what can really mess with us this week. And I want to point out that this isn't always through direct threats or through direct abuse. This is often also through verbal stuff and sharp words. Okay, so sharp words can also mess with your reality, and especially if you are on the kind of person that tries to avoid confrontation. Okay, so be careful here, because people can mess with that in you, by confronting you in a way that it makes almost impossible for you to respond, where you immediately go into your own fear and your own lack. Okay, so use this time here next week to perhaps reflect on lack in your life and where you're still aligning yourself to trying to maintain something that you think you need, or that that your ego needs. Okay, you need to be in charge of your finances. You need to be in charge of your fundamental needs. Okay, and if you're not, then you need to find different ways of getting there. As far as creativity is concerned, guys, this is part of your cognitive intelligence, if you will, and it needs to come to an expression. So when you don't have enough space in your life or time where you can, give, your rich inner life a voice, where you can, sort of express all that and maybe get this reflected back, then start at least with journaling. This will help with the emotional literacy that I mentioned earlier, and it will also help you to go into this witnesser mode and reflect on how you're perceiving things. This is a really, really good time also to start working with a coach or a counselor, or to go seek a self-help group. I can't even stress this enough, guys, that you really, really need to get to this place where you are able to control your own perception better, where you know why you're feeling in a certain way, where you know all the different factors that manipulate that, or that can manipulate that. Socially, in your family, in your relationship, at work, guys, be careful next week. There's going to be a lot of sort of venting and dumping, lashing out, and also you need to control that with yourself, especially in families. So there will be things such as like family secrets, or things that have been, sort of washed away, swept under the carpet, or whatever, that are coming forward. And there'll be people who will be completely shocked, and they'll just like burst out. Okay, so just be careful, with that. You don't want to regret anything. Yes, it's going to show you maybe how you've been coerced into things, but your sense of freedom really cannot be compromised if you don't allow it. So it's also something that has to do with your own boundaries. And when it comes to harmonizing, this wanting to be independent, but at the same time also wanting to have stability, then you need to have a closer look at your compromises in life. Okay, choose your words wisely. There's going to be a lot of breakups here in this next week. Sorry, guys. It's just like really coming in on all ends, and I strongly recommend that you use this next week to look at these values in your families, in your relationships, at work. What is important to you, and if the other people that are involved, if they are following the same kind of values, or if this really differs. Sometimes you have to sit down and renegotiate. Okay, this is part of making it work in relationships, and also in families and work environments. But sometimes we also have to cut our losses, as I called it last week. You have to realize when it's just not compatible. It's a really good time to start working with other people. It's a really good time for network marketing and for things that imply, sort of going out, presenting yourself, and sort of exchanging with others. Okay, so it's really, really good for this kind of synergy. But at the same time, you got to be really careful with whom you trust. Okay, we'll see this with the gaslighting, why this is so important. Spiritually, this is next week will be almost like everything will come to the forefront that you have been working on in the last 10 years or decades. Okay, it's you going to be called on your spiritual alignment, your spiritual impetus. You will feel this really, really strong surge to connect with your true self, to connect with something, something greater than yourself. All right, especially your future self, which is not actually greater than you, but it is less inhibited, it is more liberated, and it is wiser than you. And so that's how I would contextualize this. Don't look at others, look at your own wiser, your own more healed version, okay? And instead of externalizing your powers to others, merge with that one. This is all about this free will, free will versus karma. And we learn in energy work that there are ways to out-vibrate these different levels of karma. So there's collective karma, there's family karma, and your personal karma. So some things you came here to undo and they need to be transcended, but some things can be out-vibrated by just simply stepping out of that wheel, see everything as a learning experience, and go really into your own essence. Also question teachers and teachings, when gaslighting can happen in that way as well, that a teacher gives you this feeling that you don't know nothing and that they are the only ones who know the secret and that you need to be dependent on them. Of course, this can also happen with coaches and energy workers sometimes, unfortunately, and that, without them, that they're the only ones that know the truth and so forth. So question all of this and really use your heart's discernment, okay? Energetically, it's all about overcoming your abundance blocks. And again, here you'll be confronted with your alignment. This is all energetic self-mastery, energy management. You need to become more accountable for your own energy management, because ultimately that is your currency to to manifest, your currency to have experiences, your currency for growth, your currency for joy, your currency for true love in your life. And when all that is blocked, say through a sense of lack or fear, of abandonment, or all the ego stuff and the trauma and the shadow stuff that we've been talking about for so long, then you have no power to manifest great things. All you're really doing is constantly sort of fighting uphill, and trying to go against the grain, because your energy doesn't have enough momentum, to out vibrate these blocks or these impedances that occurred on your journey, the negative experiences, really. So learn how to shift your energy step by step, and maybe check on where your energy is going. If you would if you can visualize your energy, that is your totality of how you feel about yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your emotions, and also your sensations, okay? Check on those. If you can see them, visualize them as money, right? This may actually change a few things in your life, if you are coming to the conclusion that the majority of things that you are spending your energy on are things for others, for instance, or things that are not really good for yourself. Well, then it's maybe time to change that. Again, here, journaling can help with that, because you can better see this. And I always recommend people to have something like a notepad or something on their counter where they can write down keywords to themselves that help them remember, okay? Because part of gaslighting is also, that you begin to have a fragmented memory, and it becomes really difficult for you to stay focused on things, all right? Self-coaching questions here for this next week are, what has true value for me? This will continue here till the rest of the week, also in the sense of like what makes me feel safe and secure. What do I have to offer? So in that place, where you feel safe and secure, and where you can express your value, what is it, that really comes out of you then, and what is how do you produce value for others? And are you in control of your life's choices? That's really a fundamental question here, okay? Which then leads us to the special for gaslighting. Welcome everybody to our Awakening Essentials with concepts for empaths and energetically sensitives. My name is Yona Brindis. I'm a professional energy healer and energy coach, and I want to talk about gaslighting today within narcissistic and toxic relationships, but also in the greater sense. So gaslighting is something that can happen on all different levels of our perception, of all different levels of our lives. And we're going to go into what it exactly is and what it does to us here without any further ado. So the general characteristics of gaslighting is that it's a predatory form of mental and emotional manipulation. All right, it controls through covertly implanting doubt and cognitive dissonances in the victim. Now, those are all big words, but basically what it means, it makes you doubt yourself and doubt your own reality, your own sense of self. It coerces you into questioning your sense of security, your sense of reality, your emotional regulation, and especially your self-image. So the perpetrator does that in order to feel better, to regulate themselves, to alter or to trigger you, so that you become more pliable, so that he can have more power over you. Again, this can happen on a collective level. This can happen through media, through societal values altogether, and this is happening, as we can see in our societies, where narcissism is basically a way of living or a way of approaching things that can get a person pretty far in this world. And these transitions and all these awakening surges that are coming right now, they have a lot to do with this uncovering of narcissism in our societies. But it can also come from our family systems. We can be part of a narcissistic family where there was a lot of manipulation, a lot of setting ourselves up and grooming us, conditioning us to be susceptible to this kind of manipulation, to this kind of gaslighting. And many of you are in the process of discovering that, how detrimental that actually is, and how this has created sort of a karmic propensity for you to attract narcissists or toxic relationship partners, toxic work environments into your life. All right, so let's not forget, though, that the perpetrators do this out of their own pathology, out of their own deep sense of inferiority, insecurity, and really emptiness. And one of the big things that you already know about narcissists is that they have a real lack of empathy, which means that you will never really understand why they're doing this. So no matter how much you learn about narcissists, you'll never really understand the objective of this. And I'm not saying this to vilify or demonize narcissistic behaviors. I'm saying this for you to understand why you keep running into this trap. Besides your conditioning, there is something in you, okay, that the narcissist abuses, and that is your ability to see the good in other people, your ability to feel their true self, your ability to see the light in people. And that is being misused, guys. And many of you also have codependent tendencies, which means that you have been groomed to go the extra mile, to always work towards other people, as opposed to learning how to set firm boundaries, as opposed to standing up for your own values, for your own reality, even for your own opinion sometimes, but most and foremost for yourself. And this is something that whomever, the perpetrator, let's just call it this way, uses against you. Okay, so the purpose of such a harmful manipulation is, of course, to control you, to have power over you, to hide truths in many cases. Yes, as we all know, narcissistic people with strong narcissistic traits, they are pathologic liars in most cases. It serves to denigrate and to devaluate you, you know, so that they can see themselves in a better light, or that other people can see themselves in a better light. They project a different reality onto you so that you cannot see truth, okay? And this allows them then to either distract or deny or not having to take responsibility for their own insecurities, for their own falsehoods, for their own non-integrous ways, if you will. And very typical places where gaslighting is being used, besides, of course, narcissistic relationships, is for conning, all right, and for seducing others, literally for getting laid, for sexual misuse. Okay, so always remember that underneath any type of gaslighting is really an almost like an admittance that without this they can't do it. And so for you to take your power back and to not fall for this, you just need to really learn these tactics and learn how to counteract them, and understand where your true power is to cut through this, and then just simply walk away from it. Because one of the major reasons why we get seduced into this is because there is an almost addictive need for these things that the gaslighter or mind controller or narcissist offers to us. But because we have a skewed sense of normal, a skewed sense of reality, a very high threshold of pain, we don't even realize how we are bonding to this person like a trauma bonding. All right, so there are certain syndromes that are called after this type of bond, where the victim of abuse bonds with the perpetrator and begins to justify, begins to protect the perpetrator. We can see this over and over again. So there's always a seduction part as well with gaslighting. There's something that our ego gets out of being gaslit. And as an energy worker, that's kind of like my objective here, to show you your own parts, not to minimize the trauma that is being experienced through mind control, but to make you understand what made you susceptible for this in the first place, so that you can prevent this and so that you can break that cycle. Okay, so let's look at these gaslighting, these mind control tactics. The word gaslighting comes from a movie, so this has been cited here quite a bit. It's a movie from 1944 with Ingrid Bergman called Gaslight, and it's basically where the husband manipulates the perception of the wife or the widow into thinking that she's crazy, all just to get to her riches, okay, to her jewels, to her money. And it's a really good movie. I mean, it's 1944, but if you want to see how it's being done, that is sort of the epitome of how that's being done, you know, constantly making you question your own perception. All right, so this is sort of the general setting here when we look into gaslighting, okay? But again, mind control and gaslighting can also happen with groups, with entire nations, okay? So, for instance, what happened during the Second World War in Germany is a very a good example for mind controlling a whole entire nation into believing that the Führer, you know, is sort of acting in their best interest, okay? And these things are still happening today, all right? So tactic number one, and you have to understand, this is really, really fundamental, because here is where it all gets fueled, is creating a constant roller coaster and constant unpredictability. It shatters your sense of security. It questions your worldview, your view of consistency of everything. It makes you, forces you to go into this irrational place, almost like paranoid place of constantly expecting sort of the next drama, the next impending apocalypse. Okay, so any soothsayer or guru or whatever who constantly announces the next impending apocalypse, guys, that's a form of gaslighting, just so you know. It's a way to discern this and to uncover this. It makes you, it puts you into this place where you constantly wonder about when the next outburst will come. It makes you walk on eggshells. It keeps you low, and it bit by bit increases your pain tolerance. You don't even realize how you're in this constant state of, oh my God, what's going to come next? Okay, and you'll not be able to really be in the now. Your attention is projected into the future. You're constantly leaning into the future, and you constantly feel that your attention is drawn away from your own center into like trying to control the next disaster. Okay, so it keeps you stressed at all times. It has detrimental effects on your neurotransmitter and your entire biochemistry. It also promotes you to be in your false self, to be in this survival-based coping mode, where you pretend something that you are not. Okay. Tactic number 2 is disproportionate reactivity, lashing out, rage beasting, as I call this. Okay, you probably know what this is like, but it's really characterized by super capricious stuff that they do, like whether it be stomping off because you said something. It's erratic behavior. It's really unpredictable. It's holding on to things for a very long time, totally out of proportion for what happened, and it always has this connotation that it's punitive, that you did something wrong and that they have to endure this, and that they're sort of punishing you for what you did, and you don't even know what this is all about. And they give you silent treatment, or they maybe withholding attention, maybe withholding love, depending on what constellation you are in with the gaslighter, whether you're in a relationship or whether it's the president of your nation or whether it's your boss. This can happen in different ways, that there's an constant sort of feeling of when this gets triggered, then something big, something bad's gonna happen. And this has been carefully implanted into you, okay, these triggers, okay, so that the perpetrator can pull these triggers at will. And especially at times when their position gets questioned a little bit, it immediately distracts you. Okay, and it allows them to hide their own insecurities or even their own lying and their own betrayal. It really undermines your independence because it makes you feel like you constantly have to be on the lookout. Okay, another sort of variation of that is elevate and dump. It's like they're either like 100% for you, or you don't exist for them. So every time you do something that somehow questions or lowers their position, they're going to cut you off like you don't exist. And if you understand the psychology of narcissism, then you know that this is actually the case. You actually do not exist. You only exist for as long as you are providing the narcissistic supply. This is something for an empath really, really difficult to understand and especially to endure. When you are in a long-term relationship with someone who does these disproportionate reactions and rage beasting all the time, I mean, you are constantly tense, you're constantly on the jump, okay? Because you don't know what your day is going to be like. Makes you feel very, very unsafe. Tactic number 3 for gaslighting is fake support, okay? pretending that they have the best interest in mind, engulfing in the things that you do, offering you support, offering you healing, offering you, trying to fix things for you, enmeshing in everything that you do, and making themselves indispensable. All right, so there's really this tendency to make you dependent on them, and they really like it when you feel helpless, when you feel vulnerable, because these are times when they can establish their grandiose sort of rescuer, fixer persona, and then use this against you later. Okay, they'll guilt trip you into this later. Number 4 is elevate and dump. So this is very similar to what I already mentioned in regards to 100% on and 100% off. You got to understand the psychology behind that. This is all to really fragment your own sense of self. Okay, so you never know where you're at with the gaslighter. Okay, they will always kind of bait you into something, show interest, ask you for your opinion, and then walk out before you could even answer their question, not even being interested in what you have to say. It's a constant testing and probing. And in the beginning, it's mostly your empathy and your willingness to go the extra mile that is being tested and probed. And if you don't show any signs, of someone who could become narcissistic supply, you really don't interest them. So narcissists will only be interested in you if you show these signs, if you telegraph that you are willing to go the extra mile and that you have that empathy that they lack. Okay, they will also use teasing techniques. So again, it's a push and pull, especially in regards to sexuality. That's why there's so much sexual misconduct in conjunction with narcissism and gaslighting, because that's part of this repressed shadow aspect that needs to be hidden, that needs to be denied. But there's even in intimate relationships, this can be used against you, with sexually teasing you and then letting you hang dry, or projecting sexual energies and arousing other people through, say, clothing or demeanor, and then, telling them that you can't do it because you have a boyfriend. Those are things that are being installed on purpose, okay, to bit by bit coerce you into giving them control over when it's going to happen or whatever. So always understand that underneath that elevate and dump tactic is basically the objectification of you. So you are just an object. You are just a toy. You are like, I don't know if you've ever watched this happen when you have a cat. You know what I'm talking about. You are the prey and they're playing with you, and this is at all stages. There is never a moment where that is not taking place, where there is not some kind of you sort of being elevated or devalued. It's always one of the other. Again here, just for compassion's sake, you have to understand that this whole pedestal thing with narcissists in particular, who have often been raised by narcissistic parents, or parents who had mental illness or substance addictions, is that they were either put on a pedestal or the pedestal was put on them. Always remember that underneath all these narcissistic traits is a severe trauma that did not allow the narcissist to develop their own sense of self. And that is why they need supply. They need other people to fill this hole, to fill this lack of sense of self. And in the process of doing this, and all the meanness, so to speak, that I'm portraying here, a transference happens, from their pathology onto you, and they basically sort of suck your sanity out of you. All right, understand that. Probably the most typical tactics for gaslighting are the ones here in cluster 5: denial, lying, and misuse of information. Okay, so whether it's fake news, whether it's constantly lying, repeating lies over and over again until you kind of remember them that way. You start believing them because he or she keeps on repeating it, and often also pulling in others and say, well, they say the same thing, or others told me that the way you're doing it isn't right, and so forth. So sometimes it's overt, sometimes it's covert, but the main point is that there's a misuse of information, be it the information that they've been collecting in the dating phase, where they literally ask you questions that all just serve the purpose that they can use this against you later, where they can hold you on, oh, you want to be so spiritual, then you need to be more forgiving, or you need, these kind of things. Or where they pull your strings on the person that you want to be or that you want to become, or sort of your intimate goals, like that you've never shared with anybody. They'll use that against you, okay? They'll also deny ever having said things. One of the things that is so simple to see that you're with the narcissist is when you feel like you should record your conversations with these people, because they will insist that they didn't say it. They will lie. They will, have pretend arrangements with you that they deny. They will, simply not be interested in being held accountable for anything that they have said 5 seconds ago. And this will really, really mess with your way of recalling things. And if you feel that you should record this, okay, to play it back to them, then that's a really, really good indicator that you are with someone who's gaslighting you, because it means that you're already having cognitive dissonances about how you perceive your reality. Another way to do this, and I've produced a video here called Mind Games and Narcissistic Manipulation Tactics, where I lay this out in a bit more detail, but is earshots, word salad. Saying things like, oh, I was just kidding. Oh, don't take this so seriously. Oh, why do you make such a big deal of it? Oh, that wasn't even real. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Those are all tactics that gaslight you into not believing, or, not holding them accountable for what they said or did. Denigrating, devaluing, and crazy making as number 6. Of course, crazy making is all of the gaslighting together, but especially the denigrating of your views, of your feelings, of your perception, of your worldview, of your beliefs, making fun of you being naive or gullible. They drop so many hints and clues, that once you see this, it's so easy to identify this when you're being gaslit. Okay, they'll tell you that the way you're seeing this is completely wrong, and that nobody believes in what you're saying, and they literally in your mind sort of single you out as the only one being wrong in this world by devaluing everything that you hold dear. Everything. Okay, number 7 is this isolation that they do at a very early stage. Okay, so one of the main tactics of a narcissist is to, first love bomb you, then isolate you, then triangulate you, and then basically dump you. Then you are baited, then you are controllable, because you have no support system anymore. So you've got to understand that gaslighting doesn't always happen directly with you. It can also happen through manipulating your environment, your friends, your family, your own mother and father, okay, that gets so sort of mesmerized and glamorized by the narcissist, by this white knight in shiny armor persona that they produce, that you are literally becoming subject of criticism by your own family and your own friends, because all they're seeing, of course, is this sort of grandiosity here. And whenever you start questioning it or start wanting to talk about it or expose it, then they will say, oh, you're taking this too seriously. Oh, you just endure this. Oh, this isn't really, I don't think so. He's a good person. You're just being jealous or whatever. That all this is carefully planned and strategically implanted before this actually plays out. So if you are with a person that is mesmerizing, each and every one that you have known for decades, and they're like, oh my God, he's so perfect, and he's that's when your red flags should go up, okay? Because later that will lead to isolation, that will lead to you not having people to turn to anymore, because they've turned into what we call in narc language flying monkeys, okay? They've been manipulated as well. And so through all this enmeshment then, so enmeshment is part of this tactic, you feel very, very limited in your options. Now, tactic number 8 is the actual limiting of your options, narrowing, your reality to a point where you don't think you actually have a different choice, where the enmeshment is so high, and you have kids, or you have all your finances enmeshed with this person, and you literally don't see a way out. This is carefully and strategically created in you, okay? Blocking all your escape routes, all right? So that you are 100% dependent. That's part of gaslighting, guys. And often, they will go as far as questioning your sanity and say, you can't even function on your own, and you need my support. And without me, you couldn't even do this or this or that, okay? Obviously, again, if this is in a more tribal setting or collective setting, it will come, through phrases that are, or even in a work environment where the higher power, right, that you've externalized your power to, will constantly remind you how you are nothing as an individual, and how the only reason why you are here and why you have some kind of either support or fame or whatever is through them, or through this system that you subscribe to, or the group, so in spiritual group, that is often a very, very a difficult thing to heal, because you really trusted that they try to help you break free from other systems, okay, only to entrap you into their own system, okay? So cults and so forth. But even family cults, guys, they work with literally shutting down all your escape routes and do not allow you to break free. Secrets are in manipulation number 9. And this plays into the paranoia that we talked about earlier. This plays into this constantly, feeling that there's something that they are hiding, or that they try to make you be the one that tries to hide something. So they'll constantly, text you, constantly pound on you, to tell them what you're doing, where you are at, whom you are with. Constantly following up on things, and constantly making you feel like there is no other reality than theirs. And if there are secrets, then they're the only ones who can have secrets, okay? You cannot have any secrets. So the enmeshment is also something here that if we allowed this at an early stage, then we will barely actually be able to uncover this in family systems. This is detrimental often, because there's often abuse, sexual abuse, all kinds of things that are being kept under the covers. And there is this really weird sense, and this is part of the crazy making through gaslighting, that you kind of have a feeling it is there, but you can't prove it. Okay, so the gaslighting is what is supposed to distract you from being able to prove this, but underneath it are always things that you're not supposed to see. Okay, and last but not least, number 10 is blame shifting, or even straight out threatening. So again, here this overreactive, disproportionate reactivity that it often feels like a punishment is also being used in that conjunction, but it's really all there to make you feel guilty, to make you feel like you're the mean one, to make you feel like you're the narcissist in a lot of cases. Okay, if you are a full-blown codependent, okay, it is very typical. It's very typical to be called narcissistic by the narcissist, okay, to blame shift, okay, to shame you, to make you responsible for how everything is, and that you are the one who's having double standards, and that you are the one, that victimizes them. So one of the biggest and absolutely most stunning pieces of performance that narcissists or gaslighters use is that they portray themselves as the ones that are the victims, that are the ones that sacrificed everything, the good doers, the white shadow people that all they ever wanted was to love you, all they ever wanted was to help you, okay, and look at you, how mean you are, how you are treating them, only to get you into this minimized place again where they can dominate, where they can punish, where they can, dump you. All right. And there are many, many more tactics that can be used. Again, these mind games that are being played with you, and sometimes there's also language involved. There's also children involved. There's a lot of different aspects that can increase or decrease, the hold that these gaslighting tactics have on you. But I want you to understand that there is a way out, that there is a way to break through this. You have to claim that back. You have to get into that place where you can stand up and say, I want my reality back. I'm claiming my inner connection back. I question what is going on here. And often, just so you know, the effects on you, even physiological, can be detrimental. I've mentioned this in other videos before, where your physical health goes down and down. You degrade more and more and more physically. And you become number and number, because one of these ways this trauma bond works between you and the narcissist is the centralizing of that feeling, the centralizing, this really, really good feeling that is being produced in you in the beginning phase, where they love bomb you, or where they love pimp you, as I call it. And I call this love pimping because it is very much like drug addiction, okay? So they basically read you and read all the things that you ever wanted, and they give them to you like as if, this is like a match in heaven, okay? And you get into this sensation that this is what you've always wanted. And that then becomes like an addiction. But what they do is they feed you with it, they pimp you, and then they pull it back so that they can basically suck you dry in the process of running after that love bomb, that wonderful feeling where you've been put on a pedestal, okay, your ego, where they use it against you. And so from an energy work standpoint, being victimized by narcissism, being gaslit, over prolonged amounts of time, even though it is something that really requires you to have a little bit of experience, okay? But especially if this is a recurring pattern in your life, then this means that there are some aspects of yourself involved in that can be seduced into this. And it's often, guys, it's often your own trauma. Okay, that's where energy work comes in as a more of a holistic approach, because detecting all these things is one thing, then leaving the system, or the perpetrator is another thing, and then not attracting this back into your life is a whole other level, again, of self-healing and recovery work. And that is actually where the majority of your energy needs to go, into reprogramming in yourself, into focusing on your own sense of self, into your inner connection with your own true self, with your own higher power, and to learn how to be present in the now, so that you cannot be distracted that easily. And again, journaling is a very, very effective tool for that. Even if you just take notes, so that you can begin to trust in your own reality again. Emotional literacy, to really know how you're feeling, and to learn how to describe this a little better, to discern your own feelings, sensations, thoughts, actions, and emotions, so that other people cannot tell you what you feel. That's all part of this gaslighting tactic, is to regulate you, to control you from the outside. But if you are an energetic self-master, right? If you know how to regulate yourself, you don't even need this from the outside. You're not even susceptible to something like this. I mean, you smell this from a mile away and it doesn't even turn you on. Okay? So these things can only come through you doing this inner work with yourself. So for many of you who have had gaslighting experiences, or even narcissistic abuse, okay, for you, the road of recovery really leads to a wonderful new journey of self-healing and self-mastery. And, if it's any consolation for you, because, breaking free from such an abusive relationship, like red pilling yourself, so to speak, always also, of course, brings in a lot of grief and brings in withdrawal symptoms, just like addictions do. So there's relapses and so forth. That's all part of the recovery process. But most and foremost, guys, it helps you to really understand and love yourself better. Okay, so that this doesn't happen to you in the future, so that your children actually have a chance, to grow up with their own sense of self and the freedom to actualize themselves. Reach out, guys, reach out to friends, ask them to do this reality check with you. Seek a professional, a counselor, a therapist, or an energy worker, a coach who can help you with this reality check, and who can gently, guide you through the recovery process. Also, self-healing groups, although I have to say, with all, this wonderful education on narcissism and manipulation and so forth that is happening on YouTube, there's also a lot of vilifying and a lot of sort of unsophisticated, black and white painting. Okay, so you've got to be careful here, as evil and as mean as all this, of course, is, and as much harm as it does. This is a collective phenomenon, okay, and this can only be healed if our whole entire nations, if our whole entire human collective begins to really heal this. And what is this healing that needs to take place? Well, from an energy work perspective, it's moving from third into fourth chakra awareness. In simpler words, it's moving into our heart awareness and living a conscious life, not a life that is based on glamour, fame, power, but a life that is based on true values, on true essence, true happiness, and true joy. Not just the absence of pain, guys. A lot of you define happiness as the absence of pain. And you know what that tells me as an energy coach? That you have endured a lot of pain already, and that you do not have enough resilience to work through it and see it as a learning experience. So if you've been abused by a narcissist, narcissistic boss, narcissistic parent, narcissistic partner, ex-partner, ex-husband, wife, whatever. You will not get closure with this person. You're gonna have to cut that loss. You're gonna have to say, this happened because I could not see this before, but now I can see this. Now that I'm on this road of self-healing, I will no longer be attracted by this, okay? So you won't be able to reconcile this with the person. There is no hope with the person. You won't get closure, guys. But you can take pride in having survived it, and listening to this prompting that came from your true self to really look inward and to take your power back, to become a self-master of your life again. Thank you everybody for listening. Please push the like button, subscribe to my videos. There is a whole entire series, dozens of concepts for empath videos that will be published here in the next month. Receive an email with energy updates and when new videos are posted. Guys, thank you for helping me grow. Thank you. Bye bye.